Welcome to the Morning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll get into a little bit of the Royals' actual, good start, which is kind of shocking for almost everyone, I think, and maybe even most of the Royals organization. We'll talk a little bit about what else are we going to talk about? Let's see. Oh, we'll talk about a new hiring at the college level. One signing that the Chiefs had this last week that's probably not terribly shocking. But we'll kick off today's show where we started last week's episode talking about the NCAA tournament. We've now reached the conference champions. We now know who the conference champions are. The games that wrapped yesterday and the day before for us, for a recording schedule, at least anyway. Mike, who were you more impressed with through the tournament as the champion, from the men's side or the women's side? UConn or South Carolina?
Well, I guess they're both very impressive. UConn winning 2 years in a row. I think that's very difficult, especially on the men's side. I think it's a little more difficult than it traditionally has been on the women's side. You've had more repeat champions on that side. UConn also, the way they won every game by double figures. I think this might have been the closest game that they played, the 15-point win or over Purdue.
I think the 13 was the smallest margin of victory I think they had, maybe going back to last year through last year's tournament.
So yeah, they
It was
won.
crazy
Yeah,
to
they've
lose that
just been
dominantly. Yeah.
rolling through those games. So I get that's impressive. I guess um, South Carolina was undefeated last year, but they lost, I believe, to Iowa
In the
in
Final Four, yeah.
the Final Four. So this year they got to avenge that defeat. Um, so I guess probably also ruined what most people wanted was Caitlin Clark and Iowa winning. I don't. I guess South Carolina's a very good team. I didn't they don't have the one dominant player the way Iowa does, or the kind of personality I think that some of Iowa has. But they were a very good team.
South Carolina had a lot of new players too. So I think they had 5 players go to the WNBA after last season. So
Yeah,
relatively new team
yeah. So they've
with the exact same success, which is impressive. And then even finishing even better than the previous team did.
yeah, Don Staley has had a former UConn player, now coach of South Carolina. So yeah, I guess So I think I think more people probably wanted UConn men to win than South Carolina women. So maybe that's the only reason that I find the UConn win more impressive. I think it was, I don't know, South Carolina. I guess their whole team was very impressive. They weren't really ever challenged this entire season, I don't believe. I don't know what their closest victory was. Do you know?
No, I don't think they played many close games though.
Yeah, I don't think they probably did either.
Yeah, 38-0 though for the final record then with the tournament included. Yeah, they had one 4-point game against Indiana in the tournament.
4 points.
Yeah,
I'm looking at all their games now.
but they were over 100 several times. They had a 7-point win over North Carolina at North Carolina, ranked
Yeah,
North Carolina. But they also had a 99-29 victory over
yeah.
Presbyterian.
They had a 6 point win over LSU in January at LSU. Um,
Oh, 1-point win over Tennessee, like the second game of the year, looks like.
oh, I see. That was in the SEC tournament. They had a
Oh,
one
that was in
point.
the tournament. Oh, never mind. Oh, these are backwards on this.
This is SEC tournament. They had some tough games. Then it looks like,
Yeah,
and they beat Tennessee twice by less than 10.
yeah,
Uh, and then the
yeah.
Indiana,
So 1 point, they did have a 1-point win. So
yeah,
they didn't walk through the whole season unscathed.
yeah.
or unchallenged, I guess.
Yeah, they had a good run. Um,
But having to have that much turnover from year to year and still like not losing any regular season games is incredibly impressive.
yeah, so I guess you can say that the South Carolina 38-0 season, one of the great seasons of women's college basketball, especially. But I think it beats any. I don't think any men's team has finished undefeated since 1976, I believe, when Indiana and Bobby Knight were undefeated. So it's something that happens occasionally. I think Gino REM has had a couple undefeated teams, maybe
With UConn,
one
yeah.
one of those Baylor teams with Brittany Griner was undefeated too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. It happens more often on the women's side than the men's.
Okay, so let's see. Here's undefeated teams. Yeah, so 85, 86 Texas Longhorns, 94, 95 UConn, 97, 98 Tennessee, 01, 02 UConn, 08, 09 UConn, 9, 10 UConn. So 2 years in a row, UConn was undefeated. 2011, 2012 Baylor, 2013, 14 UConn, 2015, 16 UConn, 23, 24 South Carolina. So it's the fifth different women's basketball team since the beginning of the kind of modern NCAA women's tournament. Um, so, but yeah, the way Connecticut played in the tournament, they actually, yeah, they UConn was UConn was challenged less, I guess, in the NCAA tournament than South Carolina was. It seems like, in terms of the teams that they played. So. Yeah, they, even though uh Purdue was Zach Edey, is that his name? The guy who
Yeah.
he had 37 points and like 10 rebounds or something like that. The big guy, he had a huge game, but still it wasn't close to being enough. So
Yeah, it
I
seemed kind of crazy that Purdue wasn't like taking more threes. Like I think they were only like 1 for 4 for threes, like with just a couple minutes to go in the game, and they weren't they were getting further behind, and they were just trying to like pound the ball down to Edie, but they're giving up threes on the other side. It's like you have to score in volume, you have to take more outside shots, so they wouldn't even take them.
yeah,
So
I read that UConn was going to be guarding the three very heavily, um and I guess that was their strategy. So they didn't take. I guess they just decided not to take a lot of shots because it seemed like they were more contested than usual. Uh,
yeah,
so, but yeah, trading 3 for 2 is not usually a good
yeah.
strategy. But
Especially
yeah,
if that team can make free throws, which they were,
but yeah,
so
it was both brackets were very heavily kind of upset free, I guess we could say. They were chalk heavy. The
one
winner
seeds meeting in the finals.
1 seeds in the final, and the best bracket for the men's that in our bracket pool in the brackets that we made was the bracket designed by Jay Billis, who correctly picked UConn to win. The rankings, the Ken Pomeroy rankings, the People's bracket, which is just basically picking on the wisdom is using the wisdom of crowds, so conventional wisdom, um, the FanDuel odds, and they were all tied as well as chalk. Just the plain chalk would have been the 92nd percentile. Last year's Sagard ratings would have been the 92nd percentile. So it was
But
it,
mostly because UConn
as you
won
can repeated. Yeah,
and
that
won,
was
won last year and then won again. They were expected to win last year.
mhm.
Right.
President Biden was in the 84th percentile just about. So uh yeah, between our own picks, I beat you. I was at least in as I picked Houston, even though I picked Houston when I was still finished about 67th percentile. Um your Iowa State victory bracket was a bit lower, 38th percentile. So uh,
I'm just thankful that I beat Scaff's nightmare bracket that you designed. That was a personal victory for me at
that
least.
was the KU national championship bracket. Uh, Scouts Night bracket was only in the 10th percentile. It was only better than the one in the driving time from me bracket, which was the worst in both the men's and the women's. So local teams for me did not do terribly well.
Although, what I guess teams, let's see, what driving time from somewhere halfway between Purdue, Indiana, and Connecticut would have been not a terrible. Uh,
Well, you would think I'm halfway between Connecticut and South Carolina, sort of.
yeah,
So
yeah. So one of the schools should have done well at least on the
yeah,
side of the bracket.
but not it was
And UConn went pretty deep in both men's and women's brackets, but
yeah.
yeah, I guess you're closer to other schools that aren't.
Yeah, Yale beat UConn in the men, and then
Oh,
Duquesne
on your bracket, yes.
in the men's bracket, and then Duquesne beat them later, beat Yale. So Yale beat UConn in that bracket in the Sweet 16. So UConn only went to the Sweet 16 there. Um,
So
and
maybe you have to wait. You have to do like a weighted driving time from you to like
yeah,
push out schools that are unlikely to go deep just because they're, close in proximity, but
yeah,
lower in yeah, maybe if you like combined Pomeroy's ratings with, weighting it towards you or something, right?
yeah. So South Carolina lost to North Carolina in the second round in my uh, women's version of that closest to me bracket, and that was the actually Kent State was the winner in that bracket, and of course I don't think Kent didn't even win one
Hmm.
game.
I
They
don't
were
even remember reading them
they were 15 seed, I guess
on the
is that
list. They weren't a play-in team,
like
were
Notre
they?
Dame. Notre Dame wasn't isn't that far either, but they're a little farther away than Kent, which is in Ohio, close, fairly close between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, basically. So I'm only about 2 hours from Pittsburgh, so about 3 hours
Yeah.
from Kent. Um, yeah, that was the women's side. It was University of Maryland over West Virginia, losing to West Virginia in the final, and neither of those teams did terribly well either. I think they both lost. Maryland lost in the first round to Iowa State, and West Virginia lost, I believe. Well, actually, they lost in the second round to Iowa. So,
So
um,
a driving distance to you was the worst in the women's bracket too.
yes.
So how did the what was successful on the women's side?
Well, the successful on the women's side was basically the chalk was basically the Warren Nolan RPI was 99th
Wow.
percentile. Uh, and so he was the winner in the women's
You ever
uh
find out who Warren Nolan
I don't
is?
know who Warren Nolan is. He is somebody that developed an RPI system for the women. Um, he I guess he develops RPI and he's a basketball person. He is according to LinkedIn, he is a radar systems analyst for Northrop Grumman, but he also does uh, basketball on the side. So he lives in Edmond, Oklahoma. He's a bracketologist. He's been a bracketologist, moreknown.com since 2001. But he is um, a mathematician and radar system analyst for Northrop Grumman. Uh, he was a former um, he's a mathematician is a master's in math basically. So he's a mathematician
Well,
and
hopefully he followed his own rankings and won his Northrop Grumman's women's bracket pool that gets organized there at the company, right?
yeah, he would have probably won. Yeah, so that was the way to go. So he was 99th percentile. Um,
Oh, and
and
Sonny Moore power rankings. Who's Sonny Moore?
probably somebody similar to Warren Nolan. Uh,
Does he work at a different military government contracting organization?
Well, I don't think there's a Sonny Moore who is also known professionally as Skrillex. DJ, I don't think that Sonny Moore is the same Sonny Moore as Skrillex,
You don't
but
know that it's not the same person, do you?
no, you don't. Um, so I don't know if his uh
I hope it is Skrillex. That'd be fantastic.
yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. It's just they have the same name. So, but I'm not sure. So,
Oh, we can assume if they're the same person for now, at least, anyway.
yes,
Is what you're saying, right?
we can assume. I'm I'm looking up I don't see anything basketball related just with Skrillex, although he did sell out Madison Square Garden uh
They play
several
basketball
times.
there. That's
Yeah.
probably the same person.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird. There's a Sunny Moore powerratings.com website, but it's like a 1990s era website.
Yeah, I think that's what I used.
That's amazing. With there's like no about us or anything. Yes, on the webpage. That's amazing. I've not seen a site like this in a long time.
Yeah, it's got like the old like it looks it's yeah, it's very yeah, 1990s web. So he does, I guess he does Tennessee high school football as part of his yeah, anyway.
Yes,
So he's probably not Skrillex, but you can't dismiss the possibility.
right, exactly. We don't know that it's not, so the same person.
No, no.
Although it does say at the bottom of one of this NFL page says that the Sonny Moore's power rating started in 1974, which I believe would predate.
Well, that is old. So he's probably he's an old man, perhaps.
But that would likely predate Skrillex,
Hmm.
as he was only born in 1988, so it's probably
Yeah.
not the same Sonny Moore.
So Sonny Moore also does power ratings for the NFL. The Chiefs finished the season as number one, the Ravens number two, the 49ers number three, then the Cowboys were four. Still, despite anyway. Yeah, it started in 1974.
But maybe Skrillex is a Sonny Moore Jr., and so maybe his dad. It's his dad.
Could be, could be. Very, very possible. Anyway, should we any other basketball other basketball news? One of the teams that lost in the first round uh this year was Kentucky. They upset by Oakland University from Detroit, not California. Um they were a three seed and they
I
flamed out the
I didn't even know that that wasn't Oakland, California.
yeah, it's Oakland, Michigan.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a suburb of Detroit. And UMKC used to play Oakland in their comp. Maybe they are in the same conference now. Although I think they go by Kansas City now. The Kansas City Roos rather than the UMKC Roos
Yeah.
play basketball now. But um, the yeah, so Oakland beat Kentucky, and people were upset in Kentucky because Kentucky's a team that is you know expected to do much better, expected to contend for national championships every year. They've lost a couple of opening round games lately. John Calipari has been on the hot seat, or at least been feeling the heat, and it seems like he has left Kentucky and headed to Arkansas, my undergraduate alma mater, and because their coach Eric Musselman left to go to USC after this past season. So it's interesting, I think, seeing Calipari there. And so especially if he stays in the same conference and he's just going to a different school. And Arkansas has had some good history in basketball. They've won a national championship. They've gone to several Final Fours. With Musselman, they went to the Elite Eight twice. In the Sweet 16 2 years ago. So they're, it's not like they haven't had any success recently. So they're a strong team. This year was a little bit of a down year for them, but I think Calipari probably bring a lot of his Kentucky guys. And he had said that maybe he needs to readjust his approach rather than getting kind of all freshmen, phenoms and one and dones, maybe mixing it up with more transfers. And I think Arkansas University has decided to maybe take a different approach with NIL money. They have a lot of booster money with Tyson Chicken and Walmart, and Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is a alumnus of Arkansas, and he does a lot of stuff with the university. So they have perhaps deep pockets for both the coach and players. So it's not this. It's maybe a little bit unseemly, but maybe they will develop a powerhouse.
Well,
In
I
fan.
think it may, 5 years ago, maybe you would say it was maybe an unseemly hiring, but now I don't know that it is necessarily. I think most of the tactics that Calipari has been, you know, used to like get his programs to advance so quickly, sending people basically directly to the NBA, taking advantage of the one and done sort of things. That's pretty accepted now, I think, pretty, mostly
Yeah,
across basketball. And like the tampering kind of, money under the table thing is no longer an issue really, because now it's all sort of out in the open in some kind of way. So it's, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's any sleazier than any other coach at this point.
yeah.
And a lot of those programs that had all success where they were skirting the rules constantly, being investigated all the time, frequently not necessarily getting any kind of slap on the wrist even. I think that's all kind of done, and those programs that had been investigated all the time, now aren't necessarily succeeding as well because what they were doing, I think, before was getting around the rules, but not being punished for anything. So, but now everybody can do it, so it's fine, right?
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah, but Calipari's had success
Yeah,
at every college stop he's had, at least anyway. So,
UMass to Memphis to it wasn't so great with the New Jersey Nets, but he did take them to the playoffs one year. So in his kind of 2+ seasons of coaching there, so he's definitely top tier, maybe one of the top 5 certainly college basketball coaches there is, and so
definitely one of the highest profile
yeah
coaches in the
yeah
in all of college basketball. And then having him be available, I think, is a bit of a surprise. It seemed like Kentucky had renewed his contract for a year just like a week ago or so, and then maybe some other forces
yeah could be
were
some
willing to have him pushed out rather than actually keep him. Then
yeah I guess
led
technically
to a quick turnaround.
I guess he hasn't decided on where he's supposed to go yet, but I think that's because hasn't technically made the offer yet, but they're supposedly going to do that on Wednesday. So by the time this airs, it seems like that it will all be done, but who knows? Maybe things will change. Who knows? But it seems like Calipari is going to be coming to Fayetteville, and Arkansas Razorback basketball may be entering a new era of excellence.
So yeah, so as an alum, maybe you just answered the question before I can even ask it. Yeah, what do you think the program's going to do with him as a head coach? Should he, officially be named the head coach?
I think probably they'll be seen as they'll be a top 10 team probably next year. Going, I guess, the preseason, I would guess, be his preseason top 10 team with the recruits. I think Kentucky had the number one recruiting class. I think every year they've been number one or number two or no lower than like five under Calipari. So like he always gets the people in, and maybe they'll stay a little bit longer, or he'll get more transfers from other schools or something like that. So I think it's yeah, they're going to be a solid uh title, at least SEC title contender every year, and maybe possibly in the national title conversation most years, just like Kentucky was. I don't think Kentucky is known for being a basketball school more than Arkansas is, but I don't think the resources at Kentucky are any more than what they are at Arkansas. So there's just a history there that's a little longer, and more storied in Kentucky.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
you'd expect them to at least finish upper half in the conference, like as a floor, probably, right? So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's assuming that most of the recruits that were committed to Kentucky are going to recommit to Arkansas.
yeah. I didn't follow Arkansas that closely this year, so I don't know exactly who they have left. This
Yeah.
year was a down year for them, but they'd been solid with Musselman for several seasons. So I would think that whatever they have, they'll be able to cobble. With the way transfers work now too, a lot of people might want to transfer to Arkansas to play with Calipari if they're a little bit disgruntled in their own situation. So maybe several Kentucky players will join the Arkansas team.
And they weren't awful to start with though, so it's not you're not starting
Mhm.
like he's not coming into a program that never wins and hasn't won recently even, right? So
Yeah, they were two-time Elite Eight in 3 years ago, and 4 years ago they were in the Elite Eight. 2 years ago they were in the Sweet 16. So they've actually had more recent tournament success than Kentucky has. Uh, you know, take this year away, but yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And assuming we'll see Arkansas, because the SEC is becoming more of a basketball league, I think, over the past several years, with Tennessee and Alabama and Auburn being strong. Florida has been very good in the past as well. Kentucky, of course. Um, Arkansas, maybe if they come back, and having maybe Oklahoma and Texas joining, uh, also usually decent. This past year they weren't so great at uh, weren't as great as sometimes, but they've been solid basketball schools as well. So yeah, maybe.
yeah. Yeah, traditionally it's been a football conference, but they have had a lot of success in basketball too.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you still think of it as being as a football conference.
football conference. Yes.
But they had a Final Four team this year,
Yeah, Alabama made the Final Four.
just this year. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Well, should we move on to speaking of football conferences? Should we move on to football? Talk about the Chiefs. I don't know if there's much news. The Rashid Rice situation is still kind of ongoing. The draft is still on the horizon. But with some of that luxurious Snead money that's been freed up, it looks like the Chiefs are retaining more and more of their previous players. And one of these players that played on the team the last few years was defensive end Mike Danna, re-signed for 3 years. 2 years guaranteed, it looks like, kind of. Yeah. So are you excited about having Mike Danna back? Is that shore up the defensive line? And are the Chiefs ready to just kind of draft by best player available now, or are there still weaknesses in different position groups?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does shore up the defensive line quite a lot. They Chris Jones back too, so but he can't play there all the time anyway. So Dana was really important during the season, so it was good to see more consistency and keeping him back on the line for the next couple of years. But I think it's still going to be a wide receiver heavy draft likely early on for the Chiefs. You would think maybe
Yeah,
anyway, but now with the Rashee Rice situation, more so.
yeah, there might, unless there's a tackle, a left tackle that they like better than Wanya Morris,
Yeah,
or whoever they can bring, whoever they might bring in to kind of compete with Wanya Morris.
yeah.
Uh, but I think that's sort of a question mark. Um, maybe there's maybe a little bit still maybe a little more help on the defensive line with Amenahue not coming back probably until the end of next season, if at all. Um, Maybe a defensive tackle. I doubt. Mike Pennell did really well in the playoffs, but maybe is he going to be solid the whole season, or is he just kind of a spot kind of guy? Um,
And they did bring him back as well, right?
yeah, they brought
Yeah,
him back. They also brought they bring Noddy back, Derek Noddy back, I think.
I think so. These stories pop up so fast and disappear so quickly that
Yeah, Noddy re-signed with the Chiefs as well, so they brought most of their um,
like core linemen back.
yeah, Tershawn Wharton. I think they also brought back. So yeah, they kind of brought their guys back. So it seems like they're getting, other than Snead, they're kind of reassembling that defense. So
Yeah,
maybe there's some need, like maybe the receiver, maybe you could say tight end after Kelsey. No, Gray's been okay, but maybe there's a replacement down the road. Maybe this might be Kelsey, especially if there's a three-peat. Maybe that might be Kelsey's last season. Um, or even if it's not, who knows how long he's going to keep playing.
hmm
And so there's continual kind of churning through of different players and position groups, and they probably need need another cornerback with Snead maybe gone. You might need another um, interior offensive lineman now that Nick Allegretti, the super backup, is gone. So there's a lot of maybe another running back. We just signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but usually need three. It doesn't seem like maybe they're going after McKinnon again. Maybe they think he's a little bit too old and
yeah.
too injured. So yeah, I still think probably receiver is the weakest position group, but they could draft anywhere. So it seems like it's just going to maybe be best player uh, available.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, they're probably going to assume that Rice may be facing some kind of suspension,
yeah,
regardless of what the outcome of all of this ends up being with the racing incident. So they're gonna have to plan for two different things. One is the short-term solution, and then maybe even a long-term solution if the punishment ends up being more severe
mhm.
legally or just from the league. And I mean, they won't know what that is going to be until the league basically just tells them what it is, because
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
it was
It's
with some
hard. It's
other
really hard to
players.
predict what those are going to be. It seems pretty idiosyncratic. A lot of those decisions. So it's there's not a lot of precedent and predictability behind some of those decisions. Um, but yeah, so we'll talk more about the Chiefs as time goes on. I guess we still have the aftermath of the decisive defeat of the stadium remodeling relocation votes. We'll see what goes on with that with both the Chiefs and the Royals. Although, you see, the mayor of Dallas wanted to bring the Chiefs back
Uh,
to Dallas.
sure.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, I don't think. But he says North Texas can hold and it can be you know support more than one team,
Sure.
which they could, but it's not gonna. I don't think Jerry Jones is gonna want a second Dallas team in the area, and I
No,
don't
I
think.
wouldn't think so.
I would say if they go to if anybody goes to Texas, it would be like San Antonio or Austin.
Yeah.
Those are both growing areas that are. Um,
But you would think like the critics of the league would of Dallas especially would say that, Dallas is supposed to be America's team and they wouldn't necessarily even be Dallas's team if the Chiefs moved
yeah,
it.
I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere. They might
I
go.
wouldn't think
They
so.
might go to the Kansas side. Is probably the farthest I think they'll be.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if they do anything other than stay in Arrowhead. I think they like that, loudest stadium designation, and it's hard to replicate those kinds of things,
Yeah, and I think the
if
Royals
you build something new. So
will get done. They'll just won't be as stupid about it, and they'll be a little more humble maybe in asking for their.
yeah, it seemed like the mayor of Kansas City had thrown out kind of a proposal to at least save one of the blocks of the businesses that would have been in the demolition zone as like right before the vote, and the Royals, you know, relented on one point because they said like, okay, we'll keep Oak Street open, but they didn't say anything about his suggestion about not developing the other side of Oak, the east side of Oak Street, which is some of the loudest businesses in that area, as
Hmm.
opposing the vote. And it's hard not to understand their concern, being in the demolition zone, why they would be vocal against it.
Yeah,
But
it's not hard to figure that out. But
yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's easy to understand the argument, and I don't think the plan was very good, and the way the Royals handled it was terrible. But
yeah,
so
speaking of the Royals,
they basically shot their own. They blew their own plans up for all of this by how they handled things, really. But they fucked.
yeah, well, the Royals are handling things on the field a lot better than they handled things um, in that vote last week. They're 6-4 on the year. They came off a 4-game sweep with the White Sox. They blew another game against the Orioles. It could be easily 7-3 at this point. They're
8-2 is their actual expected based on their runs differential. So
Yeah, the bullpen has lost a couple of games that the starters should have won for them. They were down 3-0 tonight. Now they've clawed their way back to 3-3. So we'll see. This will probably be finished after we finish our story. So they could be up to at least still have a winning record, either 6-5 or 7-4 by the time we finish our recording tonight, and by the time this airs, could be no worse than 500. Um,
yeah,
uh,
they're for sure a winning team by the end of today. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So
With the
that's
1 game buffer.
yeah, um,
But yeah, much improved play though. The starting rotation is still has a sub 2 ERA on the season now, 2 full turns through,
mhm.
which is, I believe, best in baseball and very surprising. And they played a couple of expected playoff teams in their first 3 series. Although
Yeah,
the bulk of their wins came against a team that's expected to be one of the league's worst.
yeah, but you gotta win against those teams. And now they're playing Houston, another. Uh, the Houston's struggled a little bit so far coming out of the gate, but I think everybody assumes that Houston will be another playoff team
Mhm.
this year. So the Royals have been pretty good. Bobby Witt has played well. Melendez has been uh, a pleasant surprise, playing well, hitting well. So
I think drove in the lead run in each of the White Sox games, which is very impressive.
yeah, he's been solid. Michael Garcia has played fairly well, even though his average has kind of dropped lately, but he had a good start to the season.
Showed a little
Um,
power even too. There's a couple home runs early on.
yeah, Salvi's playing well. Velasquez has been hitting pretty well too. Some of the new guys aren't doing so well. Renfroe though got his first home run, so
Mhm.
um,
In a big spot too. They were being shut out when he hit the 2-run homer, put him right back in the game
yeah,
in the White Sox finale.
yeah. So it seems like are you surprised that Frazier's been getting most of the starts at second instead of Massey?
Well, so Massey has some lower back problems, and he's on the injured list.
Oh, he's injured list. Okay.
And so he did have like a rehab start at Double A on Friday, I believe, where he played very terribly. It was like 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts, and has not played since then. So he may have been deemed not quite ready to start.
Okay, so Frazier's been a
So
decent.
I think Frazier has the position sort of locked right now. I think he's giving some playing time up to uh, either the backup sort of utility outfielder, infielder in uh, and Nick Lofton and who's the other utility guy that they've been using quite a bit.
New guy, um, Gorm, not Gorm, what's his name?
He's not in today's lineup, so it makes it a little tougher to see. Yeah, he played yesterday, but what is his name?
Starts with a G, doesn't it?
Uh, uh, Hampson,
Hampson,
Garrett
Hampson,
Hampson,
Hampson, Hampson, Hampson. Yeah,
Garrett Hampson. There is a
Garrett,
G in there, yes.
Garrett. Yeah, that's the G.
Yes. So Hampton will play a little infield too. So
What great analysts we are remembering, not remembering one of the players.
well, he is only hitting 77 on the season so far.
Garrett Hampson's hitting also. But he has a 143 on base percentage, so that's
Yes.
pretty
He's on
solid.
one walk and has one hit. Yes.
um,
But Blanco has gotten some interesting opportunities as a pinch runner and has scored a couple of runs and stolen some bases. So it's, they're getting contributions from everybody in some capacity.
yeah, it's been solid. And pitching has been really good, even if the bullpen has been a little iffy, to say the least.
Terrible in the first two series. They actually allowed no runs in the White Sox series as a unit.
Yeah, so that's good.
Although it wasn't full like clean sheets across the board. I think Will Smith may have lost the closer job during the
Mhm.
series because he put a couple guys on and then Quatrero actually went to the bullpen and pulled him before he could blow another one. So MacArthur may be the closer right now. It's kind of hard to tell how they're doing it. In the White Sox finale, they did use Smith in the eighth inning, and he was fine. And then MacArthur pitched the ninth and was fine. So
Mhm.
they settle as that for a little while, and then if there falters, they may flip it back. Well, I don't. We'll see how they end up doing it. So hopefully, it's not one of the by committee scenarios again, and it's just the job is MacArthur's for him to lose for now.
Uh-huh.
I would
Yeah,
hope it's that way, but we'll see what they do.
we will see. But yeah, they've been a pleasant surprise. Um, yeah, there's like maybe the fan graphs so far it looks like, and the other predicting models, the Vegas odds predicting wins in the low to mid 70s, was perhaps, maybe where the team might end up. Maybe it might even end up low. Who knows? This is the first. So last year they were bad, so bad out of the gate. This is the first time through 10 games, at least in a while, it seems like the Royals have been over 500. So, um, it's
It is it is the
outlive.
deepest in a season they've been above 500 in two full seasons at this point. I think they were 5-4 in 2021, and then they were never again above 500 that season.
Wow.
2020, they were still above 500 around 60 games into the year.
Yeah, that's the weird COVID season, so it doesn't
Yeah.
quite count for anything, unfortunately.
So they did
But
they did okay when there weren't fans in the stadium, and then once there were, then they did worse.
and there still aren't very many fans when they do have fans available. So attendance was they didn't have too much pressure on them. Um,
Fangraphs has boosted their projection to 79 wins now, Mike,
ooh, that's bullish. It seems like, yeah. Well,
which would put them above the 73 and a half predicted by the sports books at the beginning of the year. Well above.
well above.
Although it only takes like one or two series of not playing so well to get way back underneath that.
Looks like there's some sort of review going on right now, so I'm not sure who's winning the Royals.
Oh,
It's been stuck at 3-3 with one out in the seventh inning
oh,
for a while. So, but even though the Royals are kind of stuck in limbo, should we end the show? Our short power hour this week looks like maybe even under 1 hour, which is very surprising
I do.
for
Maybe the
us.
most surprising thing we've talked about today.
The the short but sweet power hour this week. When there's more to talk about, we will talk more. We aren't, but we both have other commitments and things like that that we need to get to. So we aren't going to just ramble like we sometimes do. So you're gonna try to end it rather crisply and neatly today. Uh, unless there's something else you want to add, Dr. Scaff.
Let's go for crisp and neat.
Crisp and neat. We'll see how I really um hyped myself up there. Let's see if I can live up to it. Well, uh, as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Morning Trek Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcasts on various podcast delivery systems. We thank you for your viewership and your listenership, and we hope that you continue to enjoy this spring where the Royals are playing well, or any other team that you might follow is hopefully doing well as well. We'll maybe talk more about baseball in general next week. The resurgence of the Yankees, perhaps, or the maybe this is going to be the 1970s again with a tough Royals team and a tough Yankees team leading the American League.
Oh,
I don't know if that's really going to happen or not, but we'll find out. And until next time, we wish you a good day.